The St. Louis Blues have found their hidden gem as one prospect draft in the 2025 draft is standing out to start the KHL season, showing how good Doug Armstrong has set up the future of this Blues team. We're going to break down this one prospect that is turning heads in the KHL, his implications with the Blues team moving forward, and so much more on the Blues future later on this episode. Before we get into that, I just want to give a huge shout out to everyone watching this video. We're trying to reach a goal of 4,500 subscribers before the regular season starts, just a few weeks away. So if you haven't hit the sub button yet, but you want to stay up to date on everything to do around the St. Louis Blues, make sure to go down and hit that sub button. It's completely free and it means the world. Well, that, Darius, let's just hop straight into this. Where we do know, we've talked about it a bunch. The Blues' future is looking so good going into the years to come, but one prospect in particular is turning heads in the KHL. 18-year-old Mikhail Fyodorov gets his second goal of the KHL season. Still 18 years old, one of the youngest players to come into the draft, is absolutely firing on all cylinders. Now, this has not updated yet. He does have 2 goals in 5 games for a total of 3 points, which is insane for such a young player making his impact in the KHL. Darius just going in on the 5th round, 147th overall pick by the St. Louis Blues. What is your initial thoughts on how good he's been in one of the best professional leagues in Europe?
Yeah, you're never really expecting much from a fifth round pick in general, I think. But obviously from last year's draft as well, not even last year's draft, this past draft. So you're never really expecting a player to make that much of an impact right away, but he is. And your eyes do not deceive you. You know, if you look at the Hockey DB page, there is a lot of slots here, but this only spans over the course of 3 seasons, including the season that just began. Now, he does have some experience in the KHL last season with 3 games played. But you also always wonder, how do a lot of these players get acclimated to a league? You have to learn how to play in certain leagues. That includes the NHL, the AHL, any league that you're in. You have to get used to it. If you look at players coming up through the CHL, college hockey, whatever it is, they're not as good in their rookie season because you have to learn the in and outs of the league itself. And I always wonder about that when players make the jump to pro. So, he went from the junior league. He's been yo-yoed around a lot. There's been other prospects we've covered on the channel with the, similar paths, obviously putting up incredible numbers in the MHL last season, and then obviously kind of yo-yoed between the VHL, the MHL, and now it looks like he's a full-time KHLer. And like you mentioned, 3 points in 5 games, he has 2 goals. It is hard to score in the KHL. He's doing it as an 18-year-old. This is a really good sign for the Blues. They have an embarrassment of riches in terms of prospects right now, which is absolutely awesome because not only are a lot of these guys going to come up and fill roles that, Braden Shen's going to leave, Suter's going to leave, a couple others, they're going to be able to trade some of these assets down the line for players in a position of need. So the Blues are in such a great spot. This is another great young talent. So we'll be following him throughout the season as well. Maybe not as closely as, like the Blues games and everything like that, but he's off to a really hot start in the KHL.
I mean, everyone's kind of talking about his skill set going through. Looking at when he came through on the draft, he's great in downhill attacks. Her wristers, she can pause and read through. Everything this kid does offensively is what people are looking for when you're injecting them into a top 6 or middle 6. And I'm not going to say he's going to join this Blues team in the next year as a top 6 player, but with the skill set he is bringing through, it's really showing what they've got out of this hidden gem in the 5th round. Now you can go through. People on social media are really talking about him. First 2 points in the KHL. He's one of my favorite from last year in the draft due to the speed and skill, the hands. He gains confidence in the KHL. He's going to be filling the score sheet all the time. You can work your way through and just see people talking about him in the training camp, in the prospect development camps as well. Everything he does between the skating, tight feet, quick ability to change directions. He's fun to watch. Darius, this is one of these players that is definitely a few years away. We're seeing a lot of highly skilled Russian guys drafted in late rounds as teams and organizations are afraid that they're not going to come over to North American Ice. They may finish their entire career in the KHL, but what is your thoughts on teams, and especially we're seeing with the St. Louis Blues getting this guy in the 5th round? And do you think there is a world where maybe in 3 to 4 years that we see him come over and put up an impactful season on this Blues roster?
Yeah, I could definitely see that, right? And that's happened a lot in junior hockey. And it's not, the exact same situation, but you'll see a lot like a player will say, hey, I'm going to commit to this place. and then a team will draft them really, really late, and you're getting like a first or second round pick or prospect, I should say, skill level in these later rounds. So we've seen that in junior hockey before. And again, it's not the exact same situation, but I feel like a lot of teams are looking at a lot of North American skaters right now and like, hey, you know what, this is less work. Let's just pick them in the higher rounds. And then obviously there's some skill that I think slips through the cracks, like a guy like this. So I think that at some point, like, we're not trying to pump his tires too much or anything like that. Off to a very hot start. I'm very excited to see what he does. But I think down the road, at some point, this could be a guy that's either used as a trade chip, um, if he's having, you know, really good seasons in the KHL consistently, or he comes over to the St. Louis Blues and maybe he can make an impact in their lineup, right? So again, he's going to have to get used to the game. You never really know how it translates from the KHL to the NHL. Works better for some and others does not translate whatsoever. So you have no idea really. It depends on age too, I think, but it'll be very interesting. We're going to keep a close eye on him because again, putting up crazy numbers in the junior league over there in Russia. And then if this does translate to the KHL, especially at his age, I think that's super impressive.
And I mean, the thing is, everyone's talking about him early on. If he sticks in the KHL, has an outstanding season, maybe he signs the ELC, he joins his team in the next year or two to work his way through the system. But the big thing with this Blues team, and listen, this is not players put in the position they're going to play going into the season, but with players under 23 within this system, there are so many guys that Doug Armstrong, the drafting staff, has brought in that just shows how bright the future is. We talk a lot about Dvorsky, Carbonneau, Stenberg, but just looking through the list of players there is with this team, not everyone is going to crack into it. I know that we've talked about it a lot, and especially you speaking today about moving some of these out for key pieces, but do you think there is a world where some of these guys, we might have 3 to 4, join this team in the next couple of seasons with Shen getting older, even Parayko on the defensive end as he ages? We're going to see a lot of guys, even like Juracek, stepping in. And do you think that's when the Blues window fully opens with all these ELCs?
Yeah, well, this is the NHL, and sometimes best case scenario doesn't always go to plan. But I think in terms of best case scenario for the Blues, you know, there's a couple guys that I would consider untouchables. Dvorsky, Stenberg, and then Carbonneau right now. There could be maybe one or two others, but honestly, I think it might be those three at this point. And then maybe a couple defensemen as well that we haven't touched on. But obviously, we've seen that you can trade for that need if you need to with Logan Mailloux. But those guys to me are untouchables. And the reason for that is because you do, while, you know, the core right now on the main squad does look very good. And I think that they should be expected to make the playoffs again and make some noise in the playoffs. Braden Shen is not getting any younger, right? Like Suter's not getting any younger as well. They're good right now, but if we're looking like 2 or 3 years down the line, I think best case scenario is a lot of these guys, they become untouchables. You do not trade them. They come up to the NHL, whether it's through, you know, injuries or as a full-time player next season. And again, they can still steal jobs very early in the preseason here, but you know, they get put into the lineup as wingers if they are a center, learn the league, right? Get up to speed, stuff like that, play with some veteran players, and then eventually take over those roles. Like I can see Dvorsky being a second line center in the NHL one day. I absolutely can see it. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out and kind of what their development looks like. Cause I think one more year for a lot of them in the AHL wouldn't be a bad thing, especially to play with each other as they're coming up through the system. So it'll be a lot of fun to watch. I think that team is going to be really fun to watch too. Springfield, they should be very competitive with how much talent it looks like they're going to have. Obviously, Carbonneau won't be there. It's NHL or bust for Carbonneau because of the CHL rules, but we might see a little bit of him in the, that's the other thing I think is interesting, Mark. Like we might see more of him because you get 9 games in the NHL before December 1st. That might push somebody else out if he continues to play this way because he keeps scoring. He can't stop scoring in the preseason so far. So it might push another guy like a Stenberg or, you know, a bunch of the other guys we've been talking about the last couple of weeks, Dvorsky, out of the lineup into the AHL, and then maybe we'll see them down the road if there are injuries. But should be pretty interesting as we head towards the last couple of games here of the preseason.
But Blues fans, what is your thoughts on the future of this team? We're seeing guys in other leagues from North America lighting it up in the Blues system. What is your thoughts on how this staff has done on drafting key players from top round picks in Carbonneau all the way to drafting hidden gems from the KHL? Let us know down in the comments. And speaking on comments, let's go straight into comments of the day today. I'm very happy to see Juracek looks in the top talent he was before injury. If he had some more weight, he'll be in the phase of Parayko's decline. It's been one good game, but Mayu looked really good. Stenberg remains quicker. Jaden Schwartz, this is the team that has a lot of prospects that are building up. Let us know your favorite down in the comments. You could be featured on Comment Today. While you're down there, leave a like, subscribe, share this video with your friends. We'll be back in another episode, so keep your eye out for that. But I've been your host, Mark, with my co-host, Darius, and take care, Blues fans.